It was a night like any other in Jackson, Mississippi. February 23rd, 2025. The kind of night where the world feels hushed, as if holding its breath, until a single gunshot shattered the silence. A sharp crack echoed through the stillness, a sound that didn't belong, a violent jolt in the calm. In that moment, Rashawn Wallace, a 30-year-old nurse, stood frozen. Her hands trembled from what she'd just done. Her husband, Damian Reed, 33, was silent at her feet. The air carried the weight of what had happened, thick with consequence. Rashawn's hands were trained to heal. For years, they'd stitched wounds, steadied pulses, brought comfort. Now, they'd taken a life. The irony cut deep, a truth as undeniable as the blood on her nursing scrubs. Her voice stayed steady as she dialed 911. "Send help, please. My husband's been shot. I need an ambulance now." Calm words, but the desperation leaked through, a tremor beneath the surface. Then she dropped to her knees beside him. CPR came like instinct. Push, release, push, release. Each motion a plea, a rhythm of training, fighting against reality. But she knew Damian wasn't coming back. What drives a healer to become a killer in one irreversible second? How do hands that once saved lives turn to destruction? By 1:47 a.m., paramedics were there. Their voices were low, clipped, resigned. They confirmed it. Damian was gone. That house, once their quiet refuge, wasn't theirs anymore. It belonged to the questions now, to the scrutiny that would follow. Every piece of their life would be laid bare. Every argument, every secret, every moment they thought was private. Rashawn and Damian's story slipped from their grasp, handed over to a world eager to judge. In an instant, a nurse became a suspect, a wife became a widow, and one gunshot sparked a mystery that would pull a whole community in, leaving us to wonder, where does trust end and betrayal begin? It's 9:42 p.m. on February 23rd, 2025. In a quiet Jackson suburb, Damian Reed sits alone, the flicker of a phone screen cutting through the dim living room. His wife, Rashawn Wallace, is still at the hospital, saving lives while he scrolls through her Facebook. Her password, freely given years ago, feels heavier now. Was it trust? Or a leash he didn't know he'd pull? His thumb freezes. A notification glints like a blade. A friend request from a stranger. Accepted. Then private messages. Just a, "Hey," a reply from Rashawn. Too casual, too warm. The words are vague, but to Damian, they roar. His chest tightens. The room feels colder. Betrayal doesn't need proof. It needs a spark. In the digital age, every click blurs the line. Harmless chat or emotional infidelity. Social media turns whispers into screams, and tonight, that spark ignites Damian's doubt into a wildfire. Where does transparency end and privacy begin? Can love breathe when every move is watched? Password sharing, a modern pact. For some, it's intimacy, a window to the soul. For others, it's a key to a cage. When does a peek at a message twist into control? When does trust become a burden too sharp to hold? Damian's eyes burn into the screen. Each word loops in his mind. A taunt, a wound. He doesn't hear the front door creak. Rashawn steps in, exhausted, her keys clattering on the table. She smiles, soft, oblivious. He looks up, his face a storm. "Who is he?" His voice is a growl, coiled tight. Rashawn blinks, caught off guard. "Who?" she echoes, but the phone in his grip betrays her. She knows. The air snaps. Words erupt. Trust, lies, loyalty. Each one a jagged edge. Damian sees guilt in every text, every like. Rashawn sees a trespass, her life pried open. The fight isn't just about a stranger. It's every fear they never voiced, every doubt they buried. By midnight, it's a war. Damien looms closer, his rage a living thing. Rashawn's pulse races, nurse's instincts flaring. Assess, survive. But this isn't a patient. It's him. She grabs the gun. A warning shot splits the night. He doesn't flinch, keeps coming, fury blinding him. Her breath catches. 1 second. 2. The next shot rings out. Final. Deafening. A notification. A spark. In hours, it burned their world to ash. In this connected age, technology ties us together and tears us apart. For Damien and Rashawn, the line was crossed, and there was no way back. Where do we draw it? And when it snaps, what's left? Rashawn Wallace stepped through the door at 11:15 p.m., her nursing shift finally over. The house was dark, save for the glow of a phone screen in the living room. Damien sat hunched over it, his face tight with something she couldn't quite place. Anger, hurt, maybe both. She dropped her keys on the table, the clink unnaturally loud in the stillness. "Who is he?" Damien's voice was low, a growl coiled with accusation. He didn't look up, just held her phone like it was evidence in a trial. Rashawn froze, her pulse quickening. "Who?" she asked, but the question felt hollow. She knew. "Don't play dumb." He stood, closing the distance between them in 3 strides. The phone thrust toward her face, messages glowing in the dim light. "This guy, the one you're talking to behind my back." Rashawn's stomach dropped. "It's not what you think," she said, but the words sounded weak, even to her. Damien's eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched. "Then explain it," he spat. "Explain why you're hiding this." The air thickened with every word. Accusations ricocheted off the walls. Betrayal, lies, broken trust. Rashawn's defenses crumbled under the weight of his fury. "You're overreacting," she shot back, her voice rising to match his. "It's just a message." But to Damien, it was more. It was proof. Proof of something he'd feared all along. Neighbors would later recall the shouting, the kind of raw, jagged argument that seeps through walls. It wasn't the first time they'd heard the couple fight, but tonight there was a darker edge, a desperation that hung in the air like smoke. Then it turned. Words became actions. Damien lunged, his hands grabbing her shoulders, shaking her with a force that stole her breath. Rashawn's mind raced, nurse's instincts flaring. Assess the threat. Survive. But this wasn't a patient. This was her husband, and he wasn't stopping. Adrenaline flooded her veins, drowning out reason, fight or flight. She shoved him back hard. He stumbled, then came at her again, rage twisting his face into something unrecognizable. Rashawn's hand found the gun, kept for protection, never meant for this. She fired once, a warning shot that splintered the ceiling. Plaster rained down like snow. "Stop!" she screamed, her voice cracking. But Damien didn't flinch. He kept coming, eyes wild, as if the gunshot only fueled him. What drives someone to ignore a clear warning in the heat of emotion? When does a fight become a point of no return? Time slowed. Rashawn's breath hitched. 1 second. 2. She saw it in his eyes. He wasn't going to stop. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The second shot rang out, deafening in the small room. Damien staggered, a look of shock replacing the rage. He crumpled to the floor, blood pooling beneath him. The silence that followed was suffocating. Rashawn stood there, the gun slipping from her hand, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. The room felt too small, the walls closing in. She dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she pressed them to his chest. But it was too late. Could this have been stopped? What chances were missed before that final, irreversible moment. The sun barely crests over Brook Hollow Drive when the stillness shatters, replaced by the crackle of police radios cutting through the dawn. Hours ago, Rashawn Wallace was a nurse, her blood-stained scrubs a testament to a life spent saving others. Now, she's cuffed in the back of a squad car, her wrists cold, her future slipping away like sand. A single word echoes in the air: murder. Her career, her identity, gone in a flash, replaced by a chilling new title: defendant. Inside the interrogation room, the walls close in. Rashawn's voice cracks as she relives the nightmare. Damien's fury, her trembling hands, the warning shot that rang out like a plea in the dark. "I didn't want to kill him," she whispers, her words barely audible over the hum of fluorescent lights. "I just wanted him to stop." But the detectives don't flinch. To them, it's cut and dry. A body sprawled on the floor, a gun still warm in her grip. Intent? That's for a judge to unravel. Her defense clings to a lifeline: Mississippi's stand your ground laws. Rashawn swears she had no choice, cornered by Damien's rage, her life hanging by a thread. Her lawyer's voice rises in the courtroom. She acted to survive. But the prosecution pounces, sharp, relentless. A warning shot, they sneer. She could have run. She could have screamed for help. The air thickens with doubt. How do you measure the instinct to live against the shadow of lethal force? Where does self-preservation end and cold-blooded escalation begin? Outside, Jackson fractures like glass. At the hospital, colleagues whisper her name with reverence: Rashawn, the steady hand who cradled life in chaos. She's no killer, one nurse vows, eyes fierce with loyalty. But down the street, a neighbor's voice cuts through. She had a gun. She could have walked away. The city splits. Kindness weighed against a single, fatal choice. Online, the fuse ignites. Comment threads blaze with fury. Gun rights warriors clash with survivors shouting over domestic scars. Every scrap of the case, Facebook rants, that desperate 911 call, picked apart in real time. Rashawn's life becomes a battlefield, a mirror for a nation's rage. Why do we leap to judgment when blood stains the floor? How does the roar of public opinion tip the scales before the law even speaks? Now, the trial looms, a tightrope, strung between justice and ruin. The courtroom hums with anticipation, every eye on Rashawn. Will the law see a woman who fought to live, or one who crossed a line etched in red? The gavel hovers, the truth teeters, and we, watching, waiting, are left to wonder. What would you have done? In the quiet aftermath of tragedy, the echoes of what could have been linger. The story of Rashawn Wallace and Damien Reed is a stark reminder of the fragile line between love and loss. Their relationship, like so many, was entangled in the web of digital connectivity. Passwords shared in trust became tools of suspicion. What if they had set clear boundaries? Could a simple conversation about digital limits have saved them from this fate? Trust shouldn't demand constant access. In an age where our lives are lived online, the need for privacy isn't betrayal, it's survival. Yet for Rashawn and Damien, that line blurred, and the cost was everything. The signs were there: password disputes, escalating arguments, a simmering tension that boiled over into violence. Red flags waved in the shadows, ignored until it was too late. What if someone had noticed? What if they had sought help before the final, fatal moment? Early intervention, counseling, support might have altered the outcome, but in the heat of conflict, those lifelines often feel out of reach. The question remains: what signals should we never ignore in a relationship? How can we foster communication over confrontation? Help exists, the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-79-923, local shelters, community networks, they are there to intervene, to save lives. Awareness can be the difference between tragedy and hope. We all have a role to play. If you see trouble in a loved one's relationship, would you know how to act? What's our collective responsibility in stopping the next tragedy before it unfolds? The echo of that gunshot still haunts the streets of Jackson, Mississippi, a scar that time won't erase. Rashawn and Damien's story isn't just a case closed, a file buried in a courthouse vault. It's a warning, sharp and unyielding, carved into the lives they left behind. Pause. Look at your own world. What unspoken tensions simmer in your relationships? What lines have you yet to draw? This is your moment. Don't let their loss fade into silence. Like this story. Share it. Comment with your thoughts on Unreal Minds. Let your voice spark the dialogue that could stop the next tragedy. Subscribe to Unreal Minds and join us in unraveling the truths that demand to be heard. Together, we can break the cycle before another life is lost. This wasn't fate's cruel hand. It was a slow descent. Digital trust warped into suspicion, quiet doubts exploding into rage. From a shared password to that final shattering shot, there were chances to turn back, chances missed. But Rashawn and Damien's pain etches lessons we can't ignore. Define the boundaries, face the fears, act before anger writes the end. Their story is a call to rise up, to listen, to intervene. The next tragedy isn't waiting on the horizon, it's here, in the silences we let fester, in the warnings we overlook. Will you see it? Will you speak? Or will you wait until another shot splits the night? Rashawn and Damien are gone, but their warning burns bright. Heed it. Change the story. Like, share, comment, subscribe to Unreal Minds, because the next ending is ours to write.